Hello, agentpreneurs, and welcome to today's episode of the Daily List Report. We've got a fun one for you today. We've got Karin Carr back on this show. Her last episode was wildly popular. She is doing a ton of great work on YouTube, and we talked about sort of how she got started and what she did to get going and all of that and her early success. And today we're going to talk about something very, very practical, which is we're going to talk about how to set up your very own home YouTube studio, which is fantastic. So a couple things on Karin before we get started. She's a realtor with Keller Williams Coastal Area Partners. She's in the Savannah, Georgia area. She's also a certified military residential specialist. So she's helping people move all over, and she has experience doing this herself. She's been featured on all kinds of really cool stuff. I'm going to pull up a couple of her sites real quick. First one is georgiacoasthomes.com. Definitely check that out. You can learn all about her and her team. Of course, her YouTube channel, Georgia Coast Homes by Karin Carr. We talked about this on the last episode. Really interesting content. Really funny video, actually. The first video that you see on there is actually kind of a fun parody of maybe not such a good agent and a good agent by contrast. One other thing which we'll talk about in just a moment here is she's got her YouTube for Agents website. Bunch of great stuff here, but specifically, and I'll ask her about this, she's kicking off a challenge today. It's a 5-day YouTube challenge, and it actually starts today. Today, what day is today? Today is Monday, November 30th, but definitely check that out as well. We'll ask her. So I've talked enough. Without further ado, let's bring Karin on. Karin, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be back.
Well, one thing that I noticed right away when you came on is your setup looks a little bit different, Karin, which is
It
pretty
does,
awesome.
doesn't it? Thank
It really
you.
does. It really does. You look like a total YouTuber. And the problem with this, Karin, is you're making me look bad because I've still got my janky little setup with my iPhone that I've been using for the last 6 or 7 months, which, by the way, it works, but we all want to continue to up our game. And I think, Karin, let's do this first. For those of you who missed the last episode, why don't you just give a quick 1 or 2 minutes on yourself? Just remind everybody who Karin Carr is.
Okay, sure. So I have been licensed since 2005, and I moved several times. Every time I started over in a new market, I was starting from scratch. You've got no name recognition. No one's ever heard of you before. They have no idea how many transactions you've done, whether you're a top producer or whether you just got licensed last Thursday. Started making YouTube videos just as a way to get my name out there. And it really took off. And now I have a team. I've expanded into Augusta, Georgia. So I have a little expansion team. We get 100% of our leads inbound. We don't do any outbound prospecting. We get all of our leads coming to us saying, hey, we already know who you are. We've already decided that we like you and we would like to hire you, please, which is freaking awesome. Let me just tell you how your life changes when you don't have to beg for business anymore. They are coming to you and saying, what do I have to do to get you to represent me, for you to list my house, for you to help me buy a house? It's pretty awesome. And so, just like you, I started these YouTube videos with my iPhone or my iPad, no lighting, no audio, nothing fancy. I knew nothing about filming. Everything was just self-taught. Thank goodness there is Google and YouTube. You can learn pretty much anything you want to know off of the internet.
So
And if
true.
you decide you want to start making better videos, you'll just go down the rabbit hole, right? So it's been now over 4 years since I really started making YouTube videos for my real estate channel. I think it was in 2015 when I started making videos very sporadically. It wasn't until June of 2017 that I decided to get serious about it. But at least when I started back in 2015, there was nothing. It was just literally turn on my iPhone and start talking to it. So we all start somewhere, we all get better. And trust me when I tell you that when you start closing transactions and you're getting 5, 10, $20,000 commission checks, you can set aside a couple $100 to up level your equipment very easily.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to pull up on screen right now for everyone to see, just to compare the before and the after. So I've got up on screen right now from our last recording together when you were in, I don't know, your home office, or maybe it was your dining room.
Yep.
I don't know. Where were you before?
It was my home office. It was like right when you walked inside my front door, there was this room on the left that we called a flex room. It just had, French doors. And it was a lovely room and it was great for a home office. The downside was that it had wood floors, high ceilings, and no fabric of any kind, and glass French doors. So it
Hmm.
was very acoustically live. You would talk, and there was a big echo, and it made it tough to record in there because the sound always stunk. So anytime I was recording something that I really wanted to sound good, I would throw pillows and comforters on my floor, trying to deaden the sound by having something that would absorb some of the sound. Then I got
Yeah.
some curtains. Then I got a fabric chair. And then I got an area rug. I started doing all of these things that I could to try to deaden the sound so that it would sound better, but it still was not ideal. And then 3 weeks ago, we closed on a new house about 7 miles away. So when we got here, I picked the room that was going to be my office, and it is the finished room above the garage. So
Oh,
the good
interesting.
side is it's huge, it's the size of the garage. So it's really, really big. But it had carpet. Hallelujah. And it doesn't have high ceilings. It has normal height ceiling. So
Yeah.
while it's not really as lovely to look at as the other office was, it's actually a better filming space because the
That
sound
makes
quality is
sense.
better.
Yeah. So, Karen, let's so here's our topic today, right? Is we're going to talk about what you did and how to set up kind of your home. It could be anywhere, but we'll just say for most people, probably their home YouTube studio. So,
Yeah.
I think there's a few things. Let's cover these, each one of these. So, number one, let's talk about sound, which you've started. And for those of you who were just listening to Karen, didn't know what she was talking about, it's that sound bounces, right? And when you have hardwood floors and you have high ceilings and you have glass, right? You don't have anything to absorb that sound. The sound bounces all around and you end up sounding very hollow and things like that. And audio is probably the most important thing. It's actually more important than video quality. If the audio quality isn't good, you're dead in the water. So let's talk about audio. Let's talk about video, right? So obviously you've got this nice camera. Let's talk a little bit about lighting and also just kind of how you set up your area, right? You've got multiple places in theory you could shoot, and that's pretty cool. So let's just close the loop on audio, right? What are you using for a microphone? Did you add any sound deadening stuff around you? Let's talk a little bit about audio first.
Okay, awesome. It's funny that you talked about the sound deadening because I just bought these and I have not put them in yet. They are just it's just foam. It's like you would have packing material in a cardboard box that came from Amazon, and you can buy 12 of these. I can't remember how much it was. Like 20 bucks, maybe less, and you
Yeah,
just
I
stick
think they're
them on the
called baffles,
wall.
by the way, right, Karen? I think they're called baffles if anyone's trying to look for this. B
Okay.
A F F L E S. Yeah,
I
baffles.
didn't even know what they were called. And you would put them side by side, and there's 12 of them. So you would just stick them on the wall next to you. So my plan is I'm going to put them on the wall right here, but what I didn't realize is it doesn't come with any adhesive. So you have to get some command strips. So you put those little double-sided command strips on, you stick them to the wall next to you, depending on where you're filming. It could be on either side of you, but the idea is that when you speak, it keeps it from reverberating. That's what makes it sound like you're in a gymnasium or an airplane hangar. And like Randy said, people will be very forgiving of not very good video quality. They do not forgive poor audio. I did
Yes.
a video once where the audio was terrible and I got crucified in the comments. They're like, "Oh my God, I can't even hear what you're saying. All I can hear is the leaf blower from the guy in the background that was doing lawn maintenance." So you really want your audio to be good. Now, does it have to be this? No, absolutely not. But I, ever since March of last year, I've been doing a ton of these Zoom calls and podcast interviews and live trainings. And so for my anniversary, my husband said, "What do you want for your anniversary? Like, do you want to go to a spa day? Do you want some jewelry?" And I said, "You know what I'd really like is a decent microphone." So this is a Rode microphone. It was a couple $100. It was not cheap. But again, I've been doing this for years now. This is my livelihood. So I sucked it up and I got a decent mic. But before that, I had a $35 USB mic, very much like the one that you have right there on screen. And it plugs into the back of the computer with a USB port. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you are filming with your iPhone or your Android phone or an iPad or a tablet, anything like that, I would love the ones that clip on right here. It's called a lavalier mic, LAV, lav mic. and it just plugs into the headphones jack. So if you are out and about recording outside, it's a great thing to have. It just plugs right into the phone. Again, does not have to be very expensive. A $20-$30 microphone will be more than enough. And because it sends so close to your mouth, the sound quality is amazing. So even if your video quality is not stellar, if you if they can hear you very well, they're going to be inclined to stick around and watch the video longer because the audio quality was so good.
I think that's true. The other thing about that that's interesting, and I haven't done this yet, but we've talked about it, is the potential to turn some of your content into a podcast as well, right? So, the way you create content, the more distribution, the better, right? So you can put it on YouTube. If you could just take the audio out and you can put it up as a podcast, that works. You mentioned this one. Now it's on screen right now. This is a Yeti Blue mic. So these are about $130. They're actually quite good. You'll see that I'm not using it. I've got this weird setup here with this tool I use so I can bring in amazing guests like you, and so it doesn't work very well with that. But, to your point, Karen, for between $100 and $200 if you want to, it's, I think, a worthy investment, right? To make sure that you have great
I
audio.
agree. Like if you decide that you're going to be making video on a regular basis, you can start with what you have, but as soon as you are able to upgrade to something better, it's going to be worth the investment. Like when you start getting commission checks, come on, I don't care where you live. We're talking about a pretty hefty paycheck,
That's
right?
right.
Can you set aside $100, $200 and buy some better equipment? You absolutely can. And you don't have to do it all at once. Do a microphone this time, and then maybe a camera the next time, and then maybe paint your office the next time. Like you don't have to do everything overnight.
I totally agree. And then just real quick, back to the baffles, right? You made the point at the beginning of this, Karen, that everything is available on YouTube. It's very true, right? So there's tons of videos on how to set them up. I will say one thing from experience, depending on your room, and you'll know, right, all of you out there, when you start recording, is you'll record and you'll listen. And if you hear echoes, that's what you're trying to get rid of. And so the corners of the room, so up in the corners of the rooms, they make baffles specifically for the corners. Those corners bounce a lot of sound around. And so that's a great spot to actually put them. Karen, I love your face.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
you know what? It's funny because my husband said that yesterday, and I didn't know that that was really a thing. I thought he was just making it up. But now
No,
you're just saying,
your husband is
"Say
a
it so
smart
clearly,
man.
it's right."
It's really a thing. But, here's the thing, and this is what I love about this show, Karen, is, we're figuring things out, right, as we go, just like those of you watching are figuring it out. And hopefully you're here to learn and to skip a couple steps, right, and to jump ahead. But we're figuring these things out. And so, Karen, you've got those baffles. You're going to put them up on the wall, and you may have to adjust them. If it's not quite what you want, you add a couple, or you move a couple, or you watch a video about the corners, right, you add those. You can get better over time. So, but I agree, we are in agreement that audio is probably the most important thing. So let's talk about video. What camera are you using? What did you explore? Again, everybody knows I'm literally using my iPhone 11 Pro. This is the camera I have in my pocket all day long when I'm not doing my show. So this is the sort of the low-hanging fruit option, and it's decent. There you go. Same phone as you. Exactly.
Yep.
So
It's a great
Karen, what are
phone.
you
It's
using
got
now?
the 3 different lenses on the back. I got it for Christmas last year. My husband said, "What do you want for Christmas?" I said, "I need a new phone. Get me the one that has the really great camera on it." And it's a great camera. It shoots in 4K, right? I mean, it
It
shoots
does.
amazing quality. So you just go into the settings and pick the highest resolution that your camera has on your phone, and that's probably plenty. But then if you decide you want to level up, and I did, I wanted to get a big girl camera. So I've got a Canon EOS Rebel T7i. It's quite a mouthful. I just
Yes.
say Canon T7i. It's around $700. It is a DSLR. It's probably a pretty entry level camera. Like, let's just call it what it is. It's not a big, super expensive, fancy camera, but it is good enough for my purposes. And it still felt like I was investing. This was a real camera. When we're talking about $700, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good camera. It is a little bit intimidating to me. I'm not going to lie. I know nothing about photography. I don't know what ISO is. I don't understand f-stop. I don't know aperture. I don't know any of that stuff. I read that manual Oh, like it's my Bible. I mean, I got that manual out all the time trying to go, okay, it's too dark. How do I make it lighter? I got to look through the manual and figure out how to do it. But the more you use it, the more comfortable you get. If you can just really learn how to use the equipment you have, you get better. And then write everything down. Like if you have a great looking shot, like I'm very happy with how this looks right now, I wrote down every single setting in that camera so that I could duplicate it again later. And that way I know, okay, I don't want the ISO to be 1600. I want it to be 400. And I want the frame rate to be this. And I wrote everything down so I would be able to recreate it later. It has on a lens. I tried getting the lens that makes the blurry background. You know the one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, it's called
If,
bokeh. Bokeh
yeah,
is that fuzzy stuff.
yeah, it's like when everything behind you is out of focus, it looks great. Here's the problem. That camera has to be about 35 feet away from you in order to make that happen. Otherwise, your head fills the entire screen. If you ever go to my channel, the Georgia Coast Homes channel, and you see from about a year and a half ago, any videos I did where my freaking head filled the whole screen, it's because I had just gotten that lens and I didn't really understand like it has to be really, really, really far away from you to make that work. Otherwise, you're just a huge head on camera.
Yeah.
So the one I have now is an 18 to 55 millimeter lens. So it zooms in and out. And I have it focused on me. What's behind me is slightly out of focus, but not as much as I would like. But then again, when it was totally out of focus, you couldn't read my little thing that said
That's what I
subscribe
was just going
because
to
it
say,
was
Karen.
so out of focus.
That's what I was
Yeah.
just going to say is that, you have your book back there, you have your subscribe, right? So you kind of don't want it to be totally blurred out. I
Right.
know people like that look, but I think this kind of works.
Right. I mean, if you had stuff back there that was just, I don't know, a basket, a white basket, then yeah, you could have that be out of focus. But if you want something to be legible, then it can't be that blurry. And
That's
so
right.
the lens that I have works very well. It's an 18 to 55 millimeter, and that's what I use almost all the time.
I think that makes sense.
So,
Now,
yeah.
here's the thing. So let's talk about options for those watching right now, right? So we've talked about your iPhone or your Android phone, right? Whatever you carry in your pocket, that's an option. On the other end of the spectrum, you have a DSLR, right, Karen, like you got, and there's so many different versions of that, right? In my experience, it really comes down to the lens. The lens is generally the kind of the key, right, to get the right shot. But you're using software to capture, right? You're using some kind of a capture software when you're making it that connects that camera to your computer. And like you said, you've got that big book, and it can be a bit intimidating, but you're going to get a great result. There's a middle option. I don't know if you've ever tried this, and I don't own one because they were sold out like every day, early pandemic, lockdown time, which is
The
the
GoPro?
Logitech Brio. It's a
Yeah.
webcam, but they have like a 4K version of it. You have a Brio?
I do not. I have the cheap version.
Got
I
it.
don't, it's like Ausdom, AUSDOM. It was $65. It's a very similar thing, but it shoots in 1080p and it just hooks onto the top of your computer and it is far superior to the built-in webcam. And
Way
that way,
better.
when you're doing a Zoom call, you're in focus, it's nice and crisp and clean, the color is better, everything about it was better. And for 60, 65 bucks, it was totally reasonable. You're
Yeah.
right. Right at the beginning, like when we went into quarantine, all the prices on video and audio equipment just went straight up through the roof because everybody was doing this
And they
now.
were
And it
out of
was like,
stock. You couldn't get them, but now you can get them. So Logitech Brio, I've heard great things, and I've interviewed people who use this, and it looks fantastic. I mean, if it's set up right, it looks almost like a DSLR setup. And
yeah.
the HD Pro webcam looks like it's selling for 200 bucks. I think they even have a 4K version, which is not necessary. But so you've got your phone, right? You've got your maybe $200 for a very good quality webcam, and then you've got your DSLR. While we're on this topic of video, though, this one is critical, and we did an episode on this, which we'll link to as well. We've done episodes on this with lighting and things like that. Talk about your lighting setup, because light is actually a critical piece of video quality.
Awesome. Yes, it really is. And I am no expert when it comes to lighting, but I can copy like nobody's business. I found a killer YouTube channel called Becky and Chris, Becky with an I. She is a professional photographer. Her husband is actually a surgeon of some sort, but he also is a very good photographer. And their channel is called Becky and Chris, and they teach you all kinds of stuff. And I watched a couple of their videos where they had a diagram of this is where the camera goes, this is where you, the subject, goes, this is where the light would be, and then this light back here is called a hair light. So this light right here next to me is called the key light. You don't want it to be directly in front of you. You want it to be off a little bit so that one side of your face is brighter than the other side of the face. And that way it just gives a little bit of depth and interest, and it doesn't look like you're being interrogated by the CIA. Then you want a camera back here that's like shining light on the back of your head. And what that does is it separates you from your backdrop. So especially if your hair is the same color as the wall behind you, you'll kind of blend into it. And that light just kind of separates you from what's behind you. So I've got a bunch of different lights that I've accumulated over time. This one right here, it was a set of 2 for $50. It's not expensive. It's
Yeah.
like a tripod with a light bulb on the top and an umbrella in front of it that acts like a diffuser so that it's not a really harsh glare. It's kind of spread out very nicely. So the set of 2 was $50, again, Amazon. The one that's behind me over here is interesting. It's got, I call them barn doors. It's got like flaps that close so you can kind of direct the light to go this way. It can be a whole
Nice.
lot of light, or you can close it and it's only a little bit of light. It's really neat. And then it's got a temperature adjustment too. So it can be very warm, very cool, or somewhere in the middle. And it's got a dimmer. So how much light? A whole bunch or just a teeny little bit? So I love that those had so many manual adjustments. They take up less room than the soft boxes as well, because it's just a flat panel with these barn. In fact, like, it's going to be
Oh,
really
there you go.
bright. So it's got these things that turn or that close, open and close, and it's on a tripod, but it doesn't take up a ton of room because it's pretty flat. So
Yeah.
that was nice. Those were more expensive. It was maybe 2 for $150.
Yeah.
But again, it's not outrageously expensive. We're not talking about thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment.
Oh,
So I've
that's
got the key light
interesting.
here, I've got the hair light here, and then all of those blue lights back there. I freaking love those things. They're LED lights that are a set of 2 for about $30. And they turn different colors. So it could be blue, it could be red, it could be yellow, it could be pink. And you just put it behind the furniture and turn them on so that they're shining on the wall. And it kind of just makes it interesting back there. So I've got one behind actually 2 behind the couch. They're on a cardboard box on the floor, shining up so that you see color behind the couch. And then a couple on that bookshelf. And that's pretty much it. I've got a window in front of me, and then I have 2 skylights in the sloped ceiling of my office. So I have a decent amount of natural light, but it's really this light right here that's
Do you have
providing
it
the
covered? Do you
majority.
have that window covered? Are you, because that's an option, right? Is I'm trying to live off of whatever natural light is in this room without being distracting, but my lighting's not great, let's be honest. And some people just cover it, they try to close off all the natural light so they can control the light. What are you doing?
Because I just moved into this house 3 weeks ago, I have not hung up any curtains yet. I have some blackout curtains that I plan to put over that window right there. However, that's not where the majority of light is coming from. It's coming from these 2 skylights. So I don't know how to cover a skylight because it's on a slant and it's recessed. So
That's true.
I'm not really sure what I'll do with those if it's even necessary. Right now, I'm very happy with the way this lighting looks, so I probably won't do anything about it. But absolutely, like you said, if you can block out all of the natural light, then when you bring in your studio lights, you're under complete control. However, at my old office, I just put my desk right in front of the window. I faced the window. The natural light that was coming in was what I used 90% of the time, and it was more than adequate. It was fine.
That's awesome. Oh, I love that. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about your room setup. Okay, so and this is going to vary, right? So for those of you watching right now, some of you maybe your eyes are glossing over. You're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of stuff, right? There's some fundamentals, right? We talked about your audio. You can get a relatively inexpensive microphone. You can, because of the system I'm using, I'm just using my headset actually, right? So I've got actually a pretty low budget setup here. We talked about video, right? You've got your cell phone as an option. You've got a webcam as an option, and you've got, Karen, what you're using, which is a nice DSLR as an option. So you've got options there. The lights are inexpensive, and it's trial and error, right? You didn't get it right the first time, right, Karen? You had to play with them, watch a couple videos, and once it's set, you kind of know where they need to be, right? They don't move every video, right? I'm assuming.
Right. Yeah. Once you get it all set up, if you're going to film in the same location all the time, I would say just leave it where it is and
Yeah.
don't worry about messing. If you can afford to not put it up and take it down and put it up and take it
Yeah.
down, it makes your life so much simpler. So that brings me to, where are you going to film?
That's right.
Ideally, you have a room that is dedicated for this purpose. If it's your home office, that's great. You just set up your lights and you leave them in the corners. And then when you bring them out to film and then put them back again, but hopefully you don't have to disassemble them and put them away. But do you need a whole room? No, you really, look how much is visible behind me. It's really a strip of wall that's probably 10 feet wide. That's all that shows behind me. You would not notice, or you would not know, that the rest of my office looks like a cardboard factory exploded in here because we just moved and I have
Mm-hmm.
not put everything away yet. There is stuff in boxes, there's stuff on the floor. Like, I tried to get everything out of the frame that was messy, but nobody will know if it doesn't show on camera. So, do you need this whole big room? No. Find a place in your house that has decent lighting, so you're not like in a closet in the dark, and it has enough room that whatever shows on camera would be nice, and then decide what will be behind you. What would look nice on camera? And again, there's a million YouTube videos of how to create a YouTube home filming area. And most people like to have something decorative behind them that is attractive to look at, that doesn't really pull focus from your face, because you are the one on camera and that's what we want to see the most of. If there's something really busy behind you, we don't want people looking at that the whole time trying to figure out what it is. That we want them looking at your face. I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, if you film in your bedroom, I'm going to call you out on that and say, no, what are you selling? You're selling real estate. You do not need people seeing what's in your bedroom. Don't film on your bed. You want to have a professional presence on camera. Filming in your bedroom, to me, is a great big no-no. If you're filming hair products, fine. If you're a real estate agent, I really don't think you should be filming in your bedroom. At least
One
not with
thing,
the bed in the background.
yeah, that's very true. One thing that what you just said reminded me of. So here's just a small tip for those of you who are recording in a space where you can't keep your lights up the entire time. I know this is a little bit ugly, but it'll save you time. Is you can tape on the floor markers, right? They do this on stages and sets all the time. And so we've done this in our studio when we had to move lights. You just put a little piece of tape on the floor where the feet go. Then you know exactly where to put it. You don't have to spend 30 minutes, readjusting the lights. So that's one thing to do. The second thing I forgot to mention, Karen, Gia Goodrich, who's been on the show a couple times, and she's awesome. Kind of like the channel you mentioned. I already forgot the name, but we'll link to it. She does a lot of tips for how to look good on camera, how to do lighting. One of the videos that she has, which is great, and I need, is how to get good lighting when you have glasses. I wear glasses every single day. And for those of you who wear glasses, it presents a very unique challenge, because if you've got a ring light in front of you, you will literally see ring lights in the reflection on your glasses. So it makes it a little bit more challenging, but once you get it dialed in, it's going to be great.
I have heard that the ring light either needs to be up a little bit so it's shining down on you, or slightly off to the side rather than right in front of you. If you do that, you're probably not going to put your camera in the center of the ring, because then when you turn to look at the camera, you're still looking directly at the ring light. So if
Exactly
you're
right.
using a ring light, you're going to have a separate tripod for the filming device, whether it's your phone, your camera, your webcam, whatever it'll be. And you just move the lighting either off to the side or up above so it's shining down on you. And that seems, from what I've read, that seems to help with the glare on the glasses.
100% agreed. Awesome. Well, Karen, this is great. I think we covered a lot of ground, right? We talked about audio, we talked about video, we talked about lighting, we talked about the setup of the room. One last thing, actually, I forgot to mention about your room is that if you have enough space, like you do, you've got a sofa back there, which
Mhm.
allows you to potentially have a completely different sort of visual setup where you could, in theory, interview someone, sitting on the sofa, or you could just
Right.
change up the look and feel, right?
Yep, I thought that would be an interesting idea. If I'm doing a tutorial where I'm going to share my screen then I'm sitting at my desk right now. My computer is right here off to the side. I can then share my screen and it's a tutorial. But what if it's more vlog style? Or what if I invited a lender over and it was an interview? We could sit on that little couch back there. I would then put the camera on a tripod over on this side of the room, and it would have a completely different look and feel than this setup right now. It would be, maybe the lighting would not be so dramatic. There would not be all the stuff behind us because I'm just sitting on the couch. I'm going to put something on the wall back there that's decorative, maybe some framed prints or something, so that when we're
Yeah.
sitting on the couch, there's something behind us. But yeah, it gives you some opportunity, some difference of things that you want to do. And I wanted I thought it was going to be ivory. It came and it's a little bit more of like a really pale beige color. Of course, bought it on Amazon. And it was awesome because it came in a box disassembled. I didn't know that sofas could be disassembled, but it was like the
Interesting.
back was a piece, the two sides were a piece, and the bottom was a piece. It came in a box. So it was really easy for me to carry upstairs. And then you click it together like Legos. It was super easy.
Oh, that's
So if you
amazing.
decide, yeah, if you want basically a prop, you want a piece of furniture in your room, either because it looks nice or because it's fabric and it's going to help deaden the sound, or you just need something behind you that's not cluttered and looks nice, you can seriously get some cheap furniture on Amazon or go to a yard sale or Goodwill or anything like that and throw a slip cover over it and just put it behind you and it'll look great. So I've just got my bookshelf, and the only things on the bookshelf are things that are designed to show on camera because I want it to be very clean and organized and look nice. It's not a functional bookshelf at all of my books go on a bookshelf over there because I that would just be clutter in the background for me. And then keep in mind what's going to be behind you, and like the whole rest of the room can be whatever you want. You could do this in your dining room. I mean, let's face it, we don't how many people use their formal dining room these days? More than a couple days a year. You probably use it on Thanksgiving and
Yeah.
Christmas, maybe some other time. Could you use a corner of the dining room as your filming area? And that way you could probably leave your lights set up all the time because let's face it, hardly anybody ever goes in there most of the time.
That's right. Very true. Awesome. Speaking of bookshelf, you can't see this camera, but I'm going to turn mine for those of you watching. There's my crazy messy bookshelf. So I also try to keep mine largely out of view because it's a total disaster, but it's filled with stuff that I love, so it's okay. Karin, thanks for coming back on. I think this was a great, useful, timely topic, right? Since you just moved and you just got your new studio set up, so this worked out beautifully in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. The room was beige when we moved in, and it was pretty awful because it was almost exactly the same color as my skin. So when I did a few test shots, oh, I looked like a cadaver on screen. It was not flattering at all. So I went to Pinterest and I just started like pinning pictures of my dream office. And then I went on YouTube and I started looking for tutorials on how to set up a YouTube home office. And the ones that I was drawn to over and over and over again all had very dark walls. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to paint it navy blue. What's the worst that can happen is I hate it and I paint it again 6 months from now. But I figured with all the natural light from the windows, it was probably going to be okay. Now, my mom and dad did come over last week and they went, wow, that's really dark. But then again, they're not going to be filming in it. They just thought, why would you paint a bedroom dark blue? But
Yeah.
I said, it's going to be on camera and this is what trust me, it's going to look good. I promise.
Yes.
And so I painted it. And then I tried all kinds of different camera angles. I tried putting my desk in front of the window. I tried putting my desk in that corner. I tried putting my desk facing the skylights. I tried putting my desk in that corner and I moved it around. And then I would literally turn on the camera and just go, and then play it
Yeah.
back and watch it and see what it looked like on camera until I got the configuration that I thought looked the nicest. And the thing that's so funny is that right to the side of that bookshelf is the door going downstairs, and it's white. It's a white door with white trim. I just moved the camera so it's out of the shot. You can't see it. Like you can hide a multitude of sins by just the way you turn your camera or zooming in and out just a tiny little bit. So you don't need a whole room. You really just need a little section of a room as long as you can control what's going to be behind you on the frame. And then the more you start playing with the lights and the design, and it becomes really fun after a while. And so
It
if you
is.
look at my oldest video, I think the oldest video on my channel was when I lived in Atlanta. It was something about like a rent to own program. Oh, it is the worst video in the whole world in terms of the composition of the frame and the lighting and the sound. So you can see how it's evolved over time. It doesn't happen overnight, but you do get better with practice.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, Karin, thanks for coming back today. Thanks for sharing all of these things that you've learned. I think this was hopefully a ton of great information for all of you watching. I appreciate you taking the time to do this, Karin.
Of course, thanks for having me back. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I'll look forward to us doing this again real soon, I hope.
Sounds great. Thanks, Randy.
Okay. Bye, Karin. All right. Well, there you have it. I think another really useful show. This one was super practical, and I think lots of great tips there. Again, if you look at the before and after for Karin's setup, it's night and day. I mean, this looks amazing. It's super high quality, and it's just, she pointed out, I think, a relatively small investment, right? When you look at the success that she has had and the amount of leads that she's generating, people who have just already decided they're going to hire her, it's kind of a no-brainer when you put it in that context. So I hope you all learned something. I hope you enjoyed the show. Of course, while you're here, please consider subscribing to her channel. Please consider subscribing to our channel right here. Click that little bell so you're notified of all future episodes. And until tomorrow, be safe, be healthy, be happy. Get that video studio set up. We'll talk to you soon.